Albedo, the evil clone of Ben Tennyson, stood ready to face off against SCP-682, the infamous and lethal reptilian creature. Albedo's red clothes stood out vividly against the dark backdrop of the battleground, as he wielded his red omnitrix, pulsating with power. His white hair glinted in the dim light, adding an eerie aura to his menacing presence. As the battle commenced, Albedo wasted no time in unleashing his arsenal of evil negative versions of Ben's aliens. Each red-eyed creature emerged from the omnitrix, ready to do Albedo's bidding. From the fiery heat blast to the ferocious forearms, Albedo commanded his red-eyed minions with precision and malice. SCP-682, however, proved to be a formidable foe. The beast's bladed tail slashed through the air, aiming to strike Albedo with deadly accuracy. But Albedo was quick to dodge and counter, using the unique abilities of his red-eyed aliens to keep SCP-682 at bay. Ben Tennyson and his team watched from a safe distance, intrigued by the spectacle unfolding before them. Ben's arms were crossed in a show of anticipation, his eyes fixed on the intense battle raging between Albedo and SCP-682. "I hope that lizard kicks his butt," Ben muttered to himself, a slight smirk playing on his lips. His team members chuckled in agreement, their attention completely captured by the clash of titans before them. As the battle raged on, Albedo's determination and cunning shone through. He orchestrated complex strategies, utilizing the strengths of his red-eyed aliens to outmaneuver SCP-682 at every turn. From the speed of XLR-8 to the agility of Wildvine, Albedo showcased his mastery over his evil negative versions of Ben's aliens. SCP-682, on the other hand, seemed relentless in its pursuit of Albedo. The creature's primal instincts drove it to continue attacking with ferocious intensity, its red eyes locked on its elusive prey. With each passing moment, the tension in the air grew thick, electrified by the clash of opposing forces. The ground trembled under the weight of their blows, creating a battlefield that seemed to defy reality itself. Ben and his team exchanged nervous glances, unsure of how the battle would ultimately unfold. The outcome hung in the balance, teetering between victory and defeat for both Albedo and SCP-682. As the final moments of the battle approached, Albedo unleashed his ultimate form, the amalgamation of all his evil negative red-eyed aliens. This monstrous entity towered over SCP-682, its power radiating with blinding intensity. In a flurry of motion, Albedo's ultimate form struck at SCP-682 with unmatched ferocity. The ground shook, the air crackled, and the very fabric of reality seemed to warp and bend under the sheer force of the clash. And then, in a blinding flash of light, the battle reached its conclusion. SCP-682 roared in defiance, its red eyes blazing with a primal fury. Albedo stood victorious, his red omnitrix pulsing with triumph. Ben and his team watched in awe, struck speechless by the epic showdown they had just witnessed. Albedo, the evil clone of Ben Tennyson, had emerged victorious against the formidable SCP-682, showcasing his unwavering determination and cunning prowess in battle. As the dust settled and the echoes of the battle faded, Albedo turned to face Ben and his team. A sly smile played on his lips, his red eyes gleaming with a hint of mischief. "Looks like I came out on top," Albedo declared, his tone laced with arrogance. Ben rolled his eyes in response, a grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Guess you're not the only one with tricks up your sleeve," Ben quipped, his admiration for his evil clone evident in his tone. And with that, the chapter closed on the epic showdown between Albedo and SCP-682, leaving Ben and his team to ponder the mysteries of the universe and the complexities of their intertwined fates. The thrill of battle lingered in the air, a testament to the enduring spirit of heroism and villainy that defined their world. Words. 674. As Albedo continued to battle SCP-682 using all of his red-eyed evil negative versions of Ben's aliens, the ground shook with each clash, creating a wave of dust and debris that filled the air. Ben and his team watched in awe as the two powerful beings fought fiercely, their every move calculated and precise. Gwen, a member of Ben's team, gasped as she witnessed Albedo summon the ultimate version of his evil negative heat blast, unleashing a torrent of fiery blasts at SCP-682. The monster roared in defiance, its thick skin barely scathed by the intense heat. Ben's cousin, Kevin, smirked as he watched the battle unfold. "Looks like Albedo's in for a tough fight," Kevin remarked, leaning back against a rock and crossing his arms. "SCP-682 is no pushover." Ben nodded in agreement, his eyes trained on the epic battle before him. "Yeah, but Albedo's got tricks up his sleeve. Let's see how this plays out." As the battle raged on, Albedo continued to switch between his red-eyed evil negative versions of Ben's aliens, each one more powerful than the last. From Diamond Head to Four Arms, he unleashed a relentless assault on SCP-682, determined to bring the monstrous reptile to its knees. Suddenly, SCP-682 lunged forward, its jaws snapping shut inches away from Albedo's face. The evil clone smirked, narrowly dodging the attack before summoning the ultimate version of his red-eyed evil negative homungosaur. The massive alien roared as it charged at SCP-682, its sheer size and strength overpowering the monster momentarily. Ben's eyes widened as he witnessed the epic showdown between Albedo and SCP-682. Despite his disdain for his evil clone, Ben couldn't help but be impressed by Albedo's skill and determination in battle. As the dust began to settle, Albedo stood victorious, his ultimatrix glowing ominously on his wrist. "Well, looks like Albedo came out on top," Kevin remarked, a hint of surprise in his voice. "I guess evil does have its perks." Gwen nodded, her eyes still fixed on the battlefield. "Yeah, but I wonder what Albedo's next move is. Will he continue to wreak havoc, or will he finally see the error of his ways?" As Albedo stood triumphant over the defeated SCP-682, a sense of unease settled over Ben and his team. They knew that despite the victory, Albedo's thirst for power and conquest would not be easily quenched. With a heavy heart, Ben turned to his team, determination etched on his face. "We can't let Albedo continue down this path," Ben declared, his voice firm. "We have to stop him before it's too late." And so, Ben and his team set out to confront Albedo, knowing that their greatest battle was yet to come. As the sun began to set on the horizon, casting long shadows over the battlefield, the ultimate showdown between good and evil was about to begin. And only time would tell who would emerge victorious in the end. Words. As Albedo and SCP-682 continued to clash, the ground around them shook with each impact. Albedo's red-eyed aliens were fierce and powerful, but SCP-682 was a formidable opponent with its immense strength and regenerative abilities. The air crackled with energy as they exchanged blows, each one trying to gain the upper hand in the intense battle. Ben and his team watched in awe as the two powerful beings fought with everything they had. Gwen's eyes widened as she witnessed the sheer power of Albedo's red-eyed aliens, while Kevin clenched his fists in anticipation of the outcome. Rook, ever the strategist, studied the battle intently, looking for any weaknesses in SCP-682's defenses that they could exploit. As the fight raged on, Albedo's red Omnitrix glowed with a sinister light, empowering his evil alien forms even further. He unleashed a barrage of attacks on SCP-682, using every trick in his arsenal to try and defeat the monstrous creature once and for all. Despite his best efforts, SCP-682 proved to be a resilient adversary, shrugging off Albedo's attacks with ease. Suddenly, SCP-682 unleashed a devastating attack of its own, sending Albedo flying through the air and crashing into the ground with a thunderous impact. The force of the blow knocked the wind out of him, but Albedo gritted his teeth and pushed himself back to his feet, determination shining in his red eyes. Ben's smirk faded as he watched Albedo struggle against SCP-682's relentless assault. Despite their past animosity, Ben couldn't help but feel a twinge of concern for his former enemy. Albedo may be evil, but he was still a part of the Ben 10 universe, and Ben couldn't stand by and watch him be defeated by SCP-682. "Come on, Albedo. You can do this," Ben shouted, unable to contain his urge to cheer on his adversary. His team looked at him in surprise, but they quickly joined in, rooting for Albedo to overcome the odds and emerge victorious. Encouraged by the support of his unlikely allies, Albedo summoned the last of his strength and launched a final, desperate attack on SCP-682. The ground quaked as their combined power clashed, creating a shockwave that reverberated through the area. Albedo and SCP-682 were locked in a fierce struggle, each one refusing to back down in the face of the other's overwhelming might. In a burst of red light, Albedo's final alien form emerged from his Omnitrix, a towering, red-eyed behemoth that exuded power and menace. With a roar that shook the very foundations of the earth, Albedo unleashed all of his fury on SCP-682, determined to end the battle once and for all. As the dust settled, Ben and his team watched in awe as Albedo stood victorious over SCP-682, his red alien form towering above the defeated monster. Despite their differences, Ben couldn't help but admire Albedo's tenacity and strength in battle. As Albedo turned to face them, his red eyes glinting with malice, Ben extended a hand in friendship. "Looks like we make a pretty good team after all," Ben said with a grin. Albedo hesitated for a moment, his red eyes flaring with uncertainty. But then, to everyone's surprise, he reached out and clasped Ben's hand in a firm grip. Though their rivalry may have been fierce, in that moment, they shared a mutual respect for each other's strength and determination. And as they stood together, united against a common enemy, Ben knew that no matter what challenges they may face in the future, they would always have each other's backs. The battle may have been won, but the real test of their alliance was yet to come. And with Albedo by his side, Ben was confident that they could overcome anything that stood in their way. Words. 639. Albedo, the evil clone of Ben Tennyson, stood tall and menacing in his red attire, ready to face off against the formidable SCP-682. His white hair glistened in the sunlight as he activated the red-colored alien device attached to his wrist, the Ultimatrix. With a smirk on his face, Albedo began summoning every evil and negative version of Ben's aliens to counter and fight against SCP-682. The monstrous SCP-682 roared in defiance, its reptilian form towering over Albedo. With its bladed tail thrashing, SCP-682 lunged towards Albedo, who countered with his red-eyed aliens from his Ultimatrix. Every blow and attack was met with equal force, as the two clashed in a fierce battle of strength and will. Ben Tennyson and his team watched from a safe distance, amazed at the spectacle before them. Ben crossed his arms, a smirk playing on his lips as he commented, "I hope that lizard kicks his butt." His team looked on in awe, marveling at the sheer power and determination displayed by Albedo in his fight against SCP-682. As the battle raged on, Albedo pushed himself to the limit, summoning even the ultimate versions of his evil red-eyed aliens to combat SCP-682. The ground shook with each blow, as Albedo and SCP-682 fought with all their might, neither willing to back down. After a grueling battle that seemed to have no end, both Albedo and SCP-682 began to show signs of exhaustion. With heavy panting and weary movements, they continued to clash, neither willing to give up. Finally, in a surprising twist, the battle ended in a stalemate, with SCP-682 collapsing on the ground in defeat. Albedo, though weary and worn out, managed to stay on his feet as he slowly made his way towards Ben's team. In a weak yet determined voice, he requested some chili sauce fries, his favorite comfort food. Ben's team looked on in surprise, impressed by Albedo's strength and resilience in the face of such a formidable opponent. As Albedo sat down to enjoy his meal, the tension of the battle slowly dissipated, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and respect. Ben approached Albedo, offering him a handshake in a sign of mutual respect for their shared experience in battle. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the scene as Albedo and Ben's team shared stories and laughter, united by the thrill and excitement of the epic battle they had just witnessed. Though they may have started off as adversaries, Albedo and Ben's team had formed an unexpected bond through their shared love for adventure and excitement. As the night fell, Albedo bid farewell to Ben and his team, promising to meet again for another thrilling battle in the future. With a smile on his face, Albedo activated his Ultimatrix and disappeared into the night, leaving behind a sense of awe and wonder in his wake. And so, the tale of Albedo, the evil clone of Ben Tennyson, and his epic battle against SCP-682 came to an end, but the memories of their fierce clash would forever be etched in the hearts of those who had witnessed it. Words. 532. Albedo, the evil doppelganger of Ben Tennyson, stood in a fierce battle against SCP-682, the monstrous reptile known for its incredible strength and regenerative abilities. With his red-colored clothes, grayish-dark blue jeans, white hair, and red alien device known as the Ultimatrix attached to his wrist, Albedo unleashed a barrage of evil, red-eyed versions of Ben's aliens in an attempt to defeat the formidable creature. As the clash between Albedo and SCP-682 intensified, Ben Tennyson and his team looked on from a safe distance. Ben, with his arms crossed and a smirk on his face, casually commented, "I hope that lizard kicks his butt." His team responded with a mix of shock and amusement at Albedo's daring battle strategy. Albedo continued to push himself to the limit, summoning every evil, red-eyed alien from his Ultimatrix to take on SCP-682. The reptile, in turn, used its bladed tail to strike back at Albedo, creating a furious spectacle of combat. The battle raged on, with both Albedo and SCP-682 showing signs of exhaustion. Eventually, the intense struggle came to a stalemate, leaving both combatants panting heavily. SCP-682 collapsed to the ground, while Albedo, though weary, managed to stay on his feet. Slowly regaining his strength, Albedo approached Ben's team, his voice weak and tired as he requested some chili sauce fries. Kevin, surprised by Albedo's unexpected display of skill, complimented him on his performance, acknowledging that the evil twin had surpassed his expectations. As Albedo enjoyed his snack, Ben and his team discussed the implications of his battle with SCP-682. It was clear that Albedo had proven himself to be a formidable opponent, capable of holding his own against even the most dangerous adversaries. Despite their differences, Ben recognized Albedo's skills and resolved to keep a close eye on his evil twin in the future. The battle with SCP-682 had shown that Albedo was not to be underestimated, and Ben knew that their next encounter might not end in a stalemate. As the sun set on the battlefield, Ben and his team prepared to move on, their minds already racing with thoughts of the next challenge that awaited them. Albedo, having earned a begrudging respect from his rivals, slowly rose to his feet, a glint of determination in his red eyes as he looked towards the horizon. The battle with SCP-682 had been a test of Albedo's strength and skill, and he knew that there were many more challenges ahead. But for now, in this moment of quiet reflection, he allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction, knowing that he had faced one of the most dangerous creatures in the universe and emerged victorious. And as he walked away, leaving behind the battlefield and his defeated foe, Albedo felt a sense of pride that he had never known before. Words. 476. Ben Tennyson and his team were on a mission to contain SCP-682, a dangerous entity that had breached containment. As they arrived at the scene, they were shocked to see Albedo, Ben's evil clone, already engaged in a fierce battle with the creature. "Albedo, what are you doing here?" Ben shouted, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. "I'm here to take care of this monster once and for all," Albedo replied, his voice dripping with malice. Using his Ultimatrix, Albedo summoned a horde of red-eyed, evil versions of Ben's aliens to attack SCP-682. The creature roared in defiance, its bladed tail slashing through the air as it tried to fight back against the onslaught. Ben and his team watched from a safe distance, their jaws dropping in awe at the spectacle before them. Gwen gasped in disbelief, while Kevin raised an eyebrow in amusement. What is he thinking, taking on SCP-682 all by himself? Gwen wondered aloud. He's always been the overconfident type, Kevin remarked with a smirk. As the battle raged on, Albedo and SCP-682 traded blow after blow, neither willing to back down. Albedo's red Ultimatrix glowed brightly as he summoned more and more of his evil, red-eyed aliens to aid in the fight. Ben crossed his arms, a smug smile playing on his lips. "I hope that lizard kicks his butt," he quipped, earning a chuckle from Kevin. As the fight reached its climax, both combatants began to show signs of exhaustion. SCP-682's movement slowed, while Albedo struggled to stay on his feet. Finally, with a deafening roar, the creature collapsed to the ground, defeated. Albedo staggered towards Ben's team, his breath ragged and his movements shaky. I did it," he gasped, holding out a hand weakly. "Can I have some chili sauce fries?" Kevin's eyes widened in disbelief. "For once, Albedo, you actually did something better than I expected." "Good job, you evil twin," he said, handing over the requested fries. As Albedo devoured the food, Ben approached him, a look of grudging respect in his eyes. "You may be my clone, but you're not all bad," he admitted. Albedo smirked, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "Don't get used to it, Tennyson." "I'm still evil to the core," he declared, before teleporting away in a flash of red light. Ben and his team watched him go, a mixture of relief and wariness in their expressions. They may have won this battle, but they knew that Albedo would always be a dangerous adversary, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his next chance to strike. And as they prepared to leave the scene, Ben couldn't help but wonder what other challenges awaited them in the future, knowing that he would always have to be ready to face whatever evil his doppelganger had in store for him. Words. 475. Ben Tennyson and his team were on a mission to capture the dangerous SCP-682, a monstrous reptile with regenerative abilities. As they approached the creature, they were shocked to see Albedo, Ben's evil clone, standing in front of SCP-682 with his red-colored clothes and evil red-eyed aliens from his Ultimatrix. Ben watched from a distance, arms crossed, as Albedo unleashed his arsenal of evil negative version of Ben's aliens to battle against SCP-682. The two powerful beings clashed, with SCP-682 using its bladed tail to counter Albedo's attacks. As the battle raged on, Ben's team could only watch in amazement as Albedo continued to fight with all his might. Gwen raised an eyebrow and remarked, "I never thought I'd see the day when Albedo actually did something useful." Kevin added, munching on some chili sauce fries, "Yeah, he's actually holding his own against that monster. Maybe there's hope for him yet." Meanwhile, Albedo and SCP-682 seemed evenly matched, neither one able to gain the upper hand. The intense battle took its toll on both combatants, with Albedo starting to tire and struggle to keep up. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the battle came to a stalemate. SCP-682 collapsed on the ground, exhausted, while Albedo staggered towards Ben's team, panting heavily. Albedo weakly requested some chili sauce fries, surprising everyone with his unexpected display of vulnerability. Kevin, still in disbelief, muttered, "Well, I'll be damned. Looks like even the evil twin has a soft spot for chili fries." Ben, ever the optimist, approached Albedo with a smirk and offered him a hand. "Not bad, Albedo. Maybe there's a heroic bone in you after all." Despite the intense battle and the exhaustion that followed, there was a sense of camaraderie among the group. Albedo, for once, had proven himself to be more than just a villainous doppelganger. As they made their way back to their base, Ben couldn't help but feel a sense of pride for his once arch-nemesis. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope for Albedo to redeem himself and become a true hero. And as they enjoyed a well-deserved meal of chili sauce fries, pickles, and Kevin's favorite snacks, the unlikely alliance between Ben, Albedo, and the rest of the team signaled a new chapter in their adventures. The battle against SCP-682 had brought them closer together, showing that even the most unlikely of allies could come together in the face of a common threat. And with Albedo's unexpected display of bravery, the future looked brighter than ever for Ben and his team. Words. 431. The sun was setting in the sky, casting an orange glow over the battlefield where Albedo, the evil clone of Ben Tennyson, stood facing off against SCP-682. Albedo's red-colored clothes billowed in the wind as he summoned his red-eyed alien forms from his Ultimatrix, ready to do battle with the monstrous reptile. As SCP-682 roared in anger, its bladed tail slashing through the air, Albedo countered with every evil version of Ben's aliens at his disposal. Heat Blast, Diamond Head, 4 arms, all red-eyed and corrupted by Albedo's twisted mind, clashed with the massive reptilian creature. The ground shook with the force of their battle, rocks and debris flying in all directions as the two foes fought tooth and nail. Ben Tennyson and his team watched from a safe distance, marveling at the spectacle before them. Gwen Tennyson, Ben's cousin and fellow plumber, gasped as she saw Albedo using the ultimate versions of his evil red-eyed aliens in an attempt to defeat SCP-682. He's gone too far this time, she whispered, her eyes wide with concern. But Ben just smirked, arms crossed as he leaned back against the rock. Let's see if that lizard can handle Albedo's full power, he said, a hint of excitement in his voice. His teammate Kevin Levin raised an eyebrow at Ben's casual attitude, but said nothing as they continued to watch the battle unfold. As the battle raged on, Albedo and SCP-682 seemed evenly matched. The reptile's bladed tail clashed with Albedo's aliens, each strike sending shockwaves through the air. Albedo's red Omnitrix flashed brightly as he summoned more and more evil versions of Ben's aliens, determined to defeat the monstrous SCP-682. But as the minutes stretched on, both combatants began to show signs of exhaustion. SCP-682's roars grew weaker, its movements slowing as it struggled to keep up with Albedo's relentless assault. Albedo, too, panted heavily as he pushed himself to the limit, sweat dripping down his face as he desperately tried to overpower the monster. Finally, the battle reached its climax. SCP-682 let out one final, earth-shaking roar before collapsing to the ground, its massive form unmoving. Albedo, too, fell to his knees, breathing heavily as he struggled to stand. Slowly, he rose to his feet and began to walk towards Ben's team, his red eyes dimming as he approached. Hey, Ben, Albedo said, his voice weak and tired. You got any of those chili sauce fries? I could really use some after that fight. Kevin's eyes widened in surprise at Albedo's unexpected request, while Gwen looked on in confusion. Ben chuckled, reaching into his bag and pulling out a pack of chili sauce fries. He tossed it to Albedo, who caught it with a grateful smile. For once, Albedo, Ben said, a hint of respect in his voice, you actually did something better than I expected. Good job, you evil twin. As Albedo sat down to enjoy his snack, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a cool darkness over the battlefield. The sound of crickets filled the air as Ben and his team watched in silence, the thrill of battle still lingering in the air. And in that moment, as Albedo savored his victory with a pack of chili sauce fries in hand, a new respect grew between the evil clone and his heroic counterpart. Though they may always be enemies, on that day, they had fought as equals, their power and determination matched in a battle that would be remembered for ages to come. Words. 590. The sun was setting in the distance as Ben Tennyson and his team watched from a safe distance, their eyes glued to the intense battle unfolding before them. Albedo, the evil clone of Ben Tennyson, stood tall in his red-colored clothes and grayish dark blue jeans, his white hair shining in the fading light. He raised his red alien device, the Ultimatrix, attached to his wrist, and activated it with a sinister grin. Using every evil negative version of Ben's aliens, Albedo lunged at SCP-682, the infamous monster known for its relentless aggression. The ground shook as the two clashed, their powers colliding in a fierce display of strength. Albedo summoned his red-eyed aliens, each one more fearsome than the last, to counter and fight against SCP-682. As the battle raged on, Ben crossed his arms with a smirk on his face. I hope that lizard kicks his butt, he muttered to his team, who were equally transfixed by the spectacle before them. Kevin, always one to offer a witty remark, chimed in, for once, Albedo, you actually did something better than I expected. Good job, you evil twin. The clash between Albedo and SCP-682 seemed never-ending, each refusing to back down. Albedo used all of his evil negative aliens from his Ultimatrix, pushing himself to the limit to keep up with the monster's relentless attacks. SCP-682, with its bladed tail slashing through the air, proved to be a formidable opponent. The tension in the air was palpable as the two foes continued to battle, their movements becoming more frantic and desperate. Albedo, his red eyes burning with determination, unleashed the ultimate versions of his evil negative aliens in a last-ditch effort to overcome SCP-682. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, both combatants began to tire and exhaust each other. The battle ended in a stalemate, with SCP-682 collapsing to the ground and Albedo panting heavily, barely able to stand. Slowly getting up, Albedo staggered towards Ben's team, his voice weak and tired as he requested some chili sauce fries. Kevin's surprise was evident as he commended Albedo for his unexpected display of strength. Albedo, usually the villain in their encounters, had managed to hold his own against the mighty SCP-682. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Albedo collapsed to his knees, his red omnitrix flickering in the dim light. Ben approached him, a sense of begrudging respect in his eyes. "You may be my evil twin, Albedo, but you sure know how to put up a good fight." And as the night fell, the team gathered around Albedo, sharing stories and laughter, the tension of battle slowly fading away. Though enemies on the battlefield, in that moment, they were simply allies sharing a meal together, bound by the thrill of adventure and the camaraderie of battle. Words. 476.